New York, big city of dreams. New York, big city of dreams.
What's going on? This is JLS from Nick of Time Show. Here, give you that Knicks talk just in the nick of time. And it's time to talk to you about some Knicks news and some Knicks updates. And we're also going to talk about, you know what it is, Knicks players and how we foresee them fitting in with the Knicks in the very near future. And we're going to talk about it all. But before I talk about it, first and foremost, let me introduce you to my guys. All right. First and foremost, I'm going to introduce you to my guy, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy with the stats and the facts.
Ryan G's in the building. Looking forward to tonight's podcast and talk about some more players in Knicks basketball.
Absolutely. And also, shout out to my guy, the rookie of KLT squad, my man who writes for Posting, Toasting, and Deadspin, Lee. What's going on, Lee?
What's up, y'all? Free my man, Emu Doka, man. Celtics doing it wrong. I heard it on ban him for a whole year. Come to the Knicks. You can join our bench, man, and eventually become our head coach.
Man, that's a whole nother topic. I'm not even going to touch that one now because, man, there's a lot to get to. But, man, this has been an eventful week. And you mentioned it behind the scenes, Lee. It's probably one of the most eventful last few weeks in the NBA between the Ime Udoka stuff and the Phoenix Suns saga and everything all going together. But yeah, we're going to talk about, and shout out to my guy Raw. Raw's supposed to be here today, but you know, things happen sometimes. I probably got caught up at work or something, but shout out to my guy Raw. And hope to see you next show, Raw. So let's get to it. All right. Shout out to the GOAT, Ian Begley, who dropped a couple of articles recently. And one of those articles mentioned Cam Reddish. And as you know, we traded for Cam Reddish last season. We traded Kevin Knox and a heavily protected, because that stuff matters now, a heavily protected first round pick for Cam Reddish, a guy who supposedly has all-star potential. He's an athletic wing, something that we've been missing, a long athletic wing who is 6'8", with a 7-foot wingspan and defensive potential. And now he's now on a New York Knicks squad, but he hasn't played. He has not played that much as of yet due to injuries and the depth of this Knicks team. But Ian Begley reported earlier that his rehab has gone well, and people have seen him in the off-season workouts and say that the 23-year-old has looked phenomenal over the summer, early fall, which is great news for us because we need that man to challenge Evan Fournier for a spot, or just challenge for a spot in general. But also, I read something that was pretty interesting that Ian wrote, and this was when the Donovan Mitchell trade saga was happening. There was a scenario that was going around along with the Knicks front office, and the scenario was it was discussed internally that involving moving RJ Barrett to shooting guard and Cam Reddish to small forward. And this is pertaining to the fact this is only if, you know, trades went down. But this kind of shows you what the front office is thinking long term, you know? So obviously Cam is in the plan. So my thing is, can Cam actually win a spot in the rotation? And can this new improved Cam challenge Evan Fournier or even Quentin Grimes for a spot, Lee? I want to start with you, Lee. Yeah, let me know. What do you see from Cam?
I think Quentin Grimes is going to be the starter at a training camp. I think, obviously, he was deemed the untouchable piece during those Donovan Mitchell trade discussions. I think Thibodeau obviously has a liking to him and the defensive intensity that he brings on the court. I think it's going to be Cam Reddish, his spot to lose. Cam Reddish is really going to be the one fighting with Fournier for minutes. And I'm not super enthusiastic about Cam Reddish eventually becoming the starter. I mean, as we said in previous podcast episodes, our preference would always be for Reddish because of his offensive skill set, his size, his length. But I think the reality of it is Grimes is a better fit next to Brunson in the backcourt because of his defensive abilities, his height and size, and three-point shot. Reddish really just needs to increase that three-point percentage. 25.8% ain't going to cut it. You're not going to get minutes in Thibs rotations, and you shouldn't get minutes in Thibs rotations shooting below 30% from three. So he's got to improve in those regards to earn those minutes, but he has a chance to fight off the bench for him.
Yeah, here's the thing. Reddish, he's in a conundrum right now where Evan Fournier shoots better than he does. And Quentin Grimes plays more defense and more consistent defense than he does over season. So for him to really challenge for a spot in Thibs rotation, he has to improve in both of those areas. I feel like Cam Reddish really should look to be a 3-and-D guy and grow his game out that way. And I agree with you, Lee. I know a lot of people want to see RJ and Cam Reddish together with Brunson, with Julius Randle, and they imagine this big all-star lineup of long guys who are switchable and can do amazing things. But for me, I personally think Cam Reddish's ability to shine will be highlighted a lot more in that second unit to me, where there's going to be less competition for the ball and more opportunity to take over the game. When we have Derrick Rose over there who's going to be looking for him a little bit more. Quickley can shoot a little bit. He's going to take his fair share of shots, but he has a better chance to get the ball with that unit than I think he does with Julius Randle, high usage, RJ Barrett, high usage, and Jalen Brunson, also high usage. I feel like he can kind of get lost and he's stuck in a corner. But yeah, what do you think about the things that we just talked about, Ryan, about possibility of him coming off the bench or even challenging for a spot in the Knicks rotation?
Cam Reddish is one of those players where you watch him play and you see the potential that he possibly can grow into if given the playing time. But at the same time, you have to look at the minutes that Thibs gives to certain players, and then on top of that, you have to look at the summer league as well and see who's shining in the summer league. And because Cam Reddish barely got any time since he's been in New York. With the way Grimes has performed in summer league, clearly he has jumped over Cam Reddish. Maybe if Grimes never played in summer league, maybe you could say that there's possibly a fight there. But Grimes clearly blew away any type of competition there was for that starting position in the starting lineup with his performance in the summer league. And like Lee said, he's gonna have to fight with guys like Fournier, someone who shoots better than him. He's gonna have to fight with guys like who am I forgetting right now?
Fournier, Grimes.
Yeah, Fournier. Yeah, Grimes, who plays better defense as well. So honestly, I can't see him getting many minutes, especially in Thibs rotation. I think the Knicks were probably better off trying to see if they can move him, possibly, to see if they can bring in an extra pick or whatever the case may be. But he's gonna have a fight in his hands. He's not gonna get playing time easily. He's definitely going to have to show Thibs and the coaching staff what he can do and that he's deserving of those minutes. But at the moment, it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be tough for the guy. And I'll say this. He has the tools. A focused Cam can be dangerous. We've seen glimpses of him in the playoffs a few seasons ago when he came back versus the Brooklyn Nets and shot a bunch of threes and was playing and was the best defender on the Atlanta Hawks team. We saw him block Chris Middleton. We've seen Cam do some amazing things, and he's actually done certain things with the Knicks playing well. I'm gonna read off some stats. As a spot up shooter, 80th percentile as a spot up shooter. For him to get into the rotation, I think he should lean on that spot up shooting, and he'll be able to contend and fight for a spot. Right. Also, he was his steal rate is very high. Very, very high. I'm gonna go to Cleveland glass in a second, but he's in the 97th percentile when it comes to steal percentage. And he's in the 95th percentile when it comes to pick and roll on ball defense. So there is a lot of value with Cam using his length on the defensive end. You know what I mean? He just has to kind of short some other stuff. He has to shore up his mid-range game, where he didn't shoot it that well with the Hawks, but shot it a lot better with the Knicks. And he has to get better shooting off the dribble in general, and clean up some ISO stuff. You know what I mean? He has to clean up some of the ISO stuff because all of his isolation play has not translated for Cam as of yet. Lower percentile isolation play, which is why I feel like for this season in particular, if he leans in on his wingspan and leans in on his spot up shooting and go to the rim, because he's probably one of our athletic wings and he's been finishing with ease at a decent rate, I think he can challenge, but he has to be committed. And this is the contract year, when guys are committed. So I expect for when Cam does get into the game that he will have 100% effort. All right. 100% effort. So, I mean, I'm kind of with you guys. I'm worried about Cam. I'm definitely worried about Cam. But dude is 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan, man. He can challenge at least on the defensive end with for Evan Fournier, and that's where Tibbs loves defense, so he has a shot, but he really has to buckle down.
Yeah, he does have a shot, but the main issue with Cam is just consistency. Like one game he'll play great on defense and he'll provide a spark on offense, but in another game, he'll show lackluster effort and not be that effective on offense, so if he can find a way to be consistent where he provides that good defensive effort every night and on top of that provide that offensive spark every night, then no question about it, Cam would get playing time. It's just a consistency. And I just think at the moment, when you look at the guys he's going up against, at least with Fournier, Fournier is going to give you something consistent offensively. He's going to knock in the three-point shot. That's what he does well. At least with Grimes, consistently he's going to provide that defense. He's going to provide perimeter defense on a consistent basis every night.
Right.
So if he wants to get ahead of like any of those players, he has to show that consistency.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to gain that when he's only getting 14 minutes a game too. I think that's the variable that's the most undetermined is Thibodeau's leash on him. He is in the same camp that Obi is in terms of it's pretty short. One missed defensive rotation, 2 or 3 missed threes in a row. That's where Thibs starts having a really low tolerance for Reddish's minutes on the court. So a lot of it also is based on Thibodeau needing to evolve his game plan and extend his rotation that includes Cam to begin with. He wasn't, all reports have said he wasn't for a trade that Leon Rose did to do at that draft pick for Cam Reddish. He didn't see Cam Reddish as the type of player he wanted to put in his rotation, and the drop in minutes showed that. It was over a 10-minute drop from his time to Atlanta to once he arrived in New York. So he has to prove that in training camp. It's going to be really imperative for him to, like you guys said, to improve his defensive commitment, but also to show he's been working on his 3-ball and cleaning up some of his handle for off the dribble scoring.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, I've seen some rumblings. I think the Knicks are still trying to make trades or talking about trades. I think I saw Ian mention that. I'm still not sure how likely that is that someone might be traded because it's so late in the season. But I will keep an eye on it. I will keep an eye on it because, listen, in the event that Cam does win a spot in the rotation and actually does start to hit his threes high clip, does start to get to the rim, does do that pick and roll elite defense on a more consistent basis. Because I do feel like the defensive end he's going to pick up because, you know, money's on the line. Money's on the line. These kids play when the money's on the line. So I do expect a challenge, at least in training camp. But let's say all goes well. Then I'm looking at the trade deadline. I'm looking at these players. I'm looking at Evan Fournier. And I'm actually also looking at Derrick Rose. And I'm expecting to see a move if Cam really fills out. Either that or the Knicks look to capitalize on success and try to flip him for a pick or so. That's what I foresee.
Let's all be honest what we hope it is. And I wrote about this recently for Post and Toasting. The hope is that Julius Randle improves his stock so that he's the one that's traded and Cam Reddish is allowed to play some small ball at the 4 behind Obi and also get some minutes at the 3. That to me is a dream scenario. Is that Randle is, you know, I'm sure I'm going to get some hate for this, but Randle is shipped out in order to allow some of the other guys more sustained minutes, not just as starters, but also in the rotation. That would free up, to me, the most opportunities for Cam, both at the 3 and the 4.
Now, I agree with you. Like, to be honest with you, too, the role that Obi is in, spot up 3-point shooter who, you know, could play some defense at the times, to me, that fits Cam more naturally than Obi, but that's a whole nother conversation. And I realized that last season when Cam was playing in the 4, but that's a whole nother conversation that I don't even want to get into right now. All right.
Yeah, because in order for Cam to hit those minutes, the 3 is so stacked with depth. I mean, Grimes will play some small ball 3. RJ's pretty much solidified there. You still have Evan Fournier, but if Randall's moved, it's Obi and who at this point, you know?
Yeah. Not for real. Obi and who? It's Obi and who. And, you know, Fournier's not going to go lately. Fournier just went to the finals. All right? Fournier just went to the finals with France and was lighting it up. So he's in shape. That man's in shape. So training camp is going to be a battle, but I'm rooting for Cam. And I'm rooting for him to stay here. And you know what? I heard, listen, it's going to take 15 million to 20 million to keep Cam in the building. That's what Ian reported last season when we got him. So we definitely would have to move somebody if we end up staying with Cam. And if he plays well this year, you gotta play well next year. No Fugazi stuff where you play hard on your contract year and then turn back into a pumpkin. We don't want none of that. All right. For sure. But yo, salute to the chat, man. Listen, you can call in if you want to. Fritz, are the phone lines working now? Can you hear me? I just want to make sure before I give out the phone number. But you can call 319-527-6241. That's 319-527-6241. Guys, one of your guys could type that in the chat so I could pin it too. If you want to call in and talk Knicks basketball and talk about some of the Knicks news, so what's going on with us in Knicks Nation. All right. But salute to the chat. Shout out to Still Dre, Gerald MacGyver, picks for Timmy, Gerald Charlotte, B Willis, my guy Fritz, DJ Space Ghost, and everybody else is rocking with the KOT show tonight. All right. I see Still Dre says hopefully Lakers get desperate and trade us a pick for a Fournier package. Hey, listen, they need shooters. They definitely need shooters. So if Fournier, I don't know if people realize that Fournier was one of the best NBA 3-point shooters last season, but he has been. All right. Salute. All right. Next up, let's talk about somebody else that I know and love. Shout out to the Quickley Hive. All right, Quickley Hive, stand up. Because Listen, everybody knows that I have been in the Quickly Hive for a while. I went out the window. The first time I see him outperform Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. back in the day, I was like, start that boy. That boy is a point guard. And then last season happened and there was a dip. He started off slow. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But then, he picked it up. He picked it up a little bit at the end. And because of his improved play, Ian Begley reports that it is expected that Immanuel Quickley will receive a bigger role. And to me, I'm like, what does a bigger role mean? Grimes, because it's been reported that Grimes might start. That's what Ian Begley said. So if it's reported that Grimes might start, and it's also reported that he's expected to have a bigger role, it's like, what does that mean? But I'll get to that a little bit later. For now, I don't want to let you, Ryan, what do you expect from Quickley this season? And what do you feel like are the biggest questions for Quickley leading into this 2022-2023 season?
Well, like you said, if this was the first half of last season and he continued to perform like that throughout the rest of the season, there would be a lot of questions going into this season. But I think his improvement in the second half, going into the off season, I think he's shown that he does deserve more playing time and a bigger role that rumors have said that they plan on using him for. And with Quickley, he just showed an improvement in his all-around game. He got better at penetrating, going to the basket, finishing at the rim. Could he be better at it? Of course he can, but he showed improvement in that area of his game. He's definitely shown that he has vision. He can definitely get other players involved and get them shots in areas where they can thrive. And of course, he's always had his three-point shot. It'll be interesting to see how they're going to give him a bigger role because, they brought in Jalen Brunson, and, Jalen Brunson is going to probably be the starting point guard. And Derrick Rose, which we're going to talk about later tonight. Derrick Rose is still there as well. So it's tough to see what bigger role entails. Does that mean that he continues to come off the bench and then maybe he might be inserted late in games, which Thibs did do at times last season? Or
yeah,
I'm not sure what they mean by bigger role per se, but overall, I think Quickley has shown that he has improved, and if he can just continue on the right track, those same strides he made towards the second half of last season, I think he'll be fine.
When the Donovan Mitchell trades were being negotiated between the Knicks and Utah before everything fell through, it felt like a certainty that Immanuel Quickley was going to be a part of that package because of the massive overlaps, skill set and identity between him and Donovan. I started preparing myself for IQ's absence on my team, and I was really happy when that trade fell through that, hey, these are the guys we're going to have presumably for a long time. And Quickley's just attitude and personality, he seems to be a really lovable guy, beloved teammate, especially by Obi. They seem to be a dynamic duo, and I love the chemistry that those two guys have really built, and the chemistry between him and Derrick Rose in that second unit comes in to relieve the starters. For me, Immanuel Quickley, I just want to see more attempts at the line. I think getting his free throw attempts up, because he's a really solid free throw shooter and a above average shooter all around. I like to see him drive more, not settle so much for that long range 15-foot floater, get into a little bit more into the teeth of a defense and just some easier buckets in close proximity to the basket. I think it's way too many times he settles for pulling up in intermediate range and settling for a really long floater. When he has a quick step, he could get a little bit deeper into toward the basket and get a more high percentage shot. So increasing that and just having some of those minutes that used to be given to Derrick Rose, move to him. I like to see him be the first guard off the bench, even before Rose, and kind of be more in a playmaking point guard role behind Brunson, playing alongside the bench unit. That would be my hope, and also finishing games more than he did last year as well.
Yeah, yo, here's the thing with Quickly, and you mentioned the finishing. And this is one of the reasons why I'm hopeful. You start to see towards the end, the second half of the season, a little bit of his game kind of switched up a little bit. He started going to the rim a little bit more. And you can see the growth from the 2021 season to 2020 season to the 2021 season, right? At the rim, 33rd percentile. And then last season, 62nd percentile, which is crazy because, you know, smaller than Julius, smaller than RJ, finishing at the rim at a higher clip. It's kind of crazy, right? And he seemed like he was getting a lot of and ones there as well. So I like that. I also like the passing in general. His assist percentage has gone up a lot. 73rd percentile in assist percentage. Pick and roll boy handler. He's in the 78th percentile as a pick and roll ball handler. He has one of the best on-off stats on the team, the second highest behind Miles McBride. I know Roy would like to hear that. Shout out to Roy. But the team scores 12 more points a game when he's playing. There's a lot to like about Quickly when he's done this in the second half. And it kind of gets me excited. It's kind of the reason why I didn't want Jalen Brunson here at first, because I wanted to see what Quickly could do given a full runway. Like, and I do agree with you, Lee, that the free throw percentage, the free throws have to go up, but even that's going up in the second half of the season. I feel like he started to figure out how fouls are being called, and he's able to get to the line. And it also, he started to figure out how to isolate, how to call switches and pick on the slowest man in the opposing team's defense. And he did it in Miami when we came back to win it. And he's done that a lot through the second half of this season. The second half of the season Quickly was phenomenal. Pulse all-star numbers, 43% from three, 4.7 rebounds from a guard, and 5.2 assists. Quickly, he went off. He went off, man. So when people talk about, oh, he's not a point guard, I'm still like on the side of like, chill. I don't care. There's not a lot of prototypical prototype point guards anyway. The thing for me is he still gets it done, and he can still set up people at high clip and score, which is kind of what we need.
You know, a lot of people talk about his inefficiency at the 3-point line. Like he's always been labeled a shooter, but has never been an elite shooter in terms of percentage. A lot of us, the second unit he's playing with, guys under Lenz Noel and Taj Gibson, they're not the best passing out of double teams and passing out of low post. Now, Isaiah Hartenstein, one of the best passers in a big man, especially off the bench. I think IQ's going to be benefiting, one of the guys benefiting the most from playing alongside Hartenstein and his ability to facilitate in the high post and the low post, and, in the corners. I think he's going to have a lot more open threes opposed to having to work his ass off and pull up off the dribble from beyond the arc.
The thing is, too, it's funny. Yeah, like that's a good observation that I have to kind of inspect a little bit, because he hasn't been good at spot up shooting, right? 39th percentile from a guy who's supposed to be your 3-point weapon. You have to shoot better than that. Have to on spot ups. And he hasn't done that. And if you're going to be playing with Jalen Brunson and with the rest of those guys, being a consistent spot up shooter is going to help a bunch. And hopefully that part of his game will actualize. Also, I need to see him put a whole season together. Now, I get it. Last year, he was trying to figure out how to balance being a playmaker and a scorer. But this season, with a year under his belt, I expect him to come out the gate and be end of the year Immanuel Quickley throughout the whole season. And that's what I really want to see for him to have a successful season this year. But
I think
go ahead.
Playing along with Fournier, if he's moved to a bench role, and that's to Hartenstein, that'll allow him to be a little bit more wide open and catching better passes and have more better spacing in their spot up shots. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I agree. Hartenstein is a missing link right here, man. Hartenstein is a beast. He can pass well. Obi can low-key pass well too, but Hartenstein is a little bit another level when it comes to the passing. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Ryan.
Y'all added all the good words. I'm just gonna go with what y'all said. I said my piece earlier. I'm straight. IQ. I expect a good third season from him all the way.
When they talked about him having an extensive role, in my mind, okay, Grimes is starting, right? At least Ian Begley seems to believe that, even though it's not completely reported. He believes it since Evan Fournier was in a bunch of trade rumors, right? What do you feel about a Jalen Brunson, Immanuel Quickley backcourt?
I mean, me personally, I'm not really a fan of the two small guards in the backcourt, but that's just me. I feel like if you have a small guard in the backcourt, you need at least one guard with size.
Yeah.
Especially the way the NBA is nowadays with bigger guards. But I wouldn't be opposed to playing it at times, especially in games where the Knicks might need offensive spark to get back into games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they go to Brunson IQ backcourt just to see if they can get some points on the board and get back into games. And I trust IQ's effort on defense enough for him to be alongside Brunson. So I would play IQ. I would play IQ Brunson backcourt in situations where the Knicks need points on the board. But besides that, I would rather go with Brunson starting and then have IQ come off the bench to replace Brunson. But that's me, though.
I agree with that. You saw Brunson play with Dinwiddie at the end of games a lot in the playoffs and the regular season last year, too. A lot of success. I agree. It really depends on who else is starting alongside those two in the backcourt. Spacing's important, but you also need a lot of rim protection, too, with that as your defensive duo on the perimeter. So also, Brunson's got to shoot more threes in order for IQ to be open to space, to be more efficient. Brunson's got to increase his threes per game from 3 to 4 up to 6 or 7. That would make that IQ pairing a lot more efficient as well.
Man, the key for our team in general, and particularly the starting unit, is shoot and hit more threes. That's pretty much if the starting unit shoots and hits more threes, everything works out.
Yep. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Brunson, all of them. Yep.
in different types of threes. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, and how do I say this? Because I'm gonna talk about Derrick Rose in a minute. There's always going to be an issue when the subs comes in, which is why I think Ian believes Grimes is going to start, and why Knicks Nation probably thinks the same thing as well. Because once Grimes comes out, who's starting at the 2? What tall person is going to be there when Grimes comes out? The only option you really do have is Cam Reddish. So when I'm looking at this team, for us to get to the next phase of the Knicks and grow, one of these young guys has to pop. And if Cam and IQ pop, those two in particular, Cam, IQ, and RJ. If Cam, IQ, and RJ pop, everything else becomes a lot simpler. Because you know what you can do? You can do a changing of the guard, move Derrick Rose somewhere else in the offseason. I mean, by trade deadline, have him join a championship team, have IQ run the point guard spot, backup point guard spot full time. You can have, you can have Cam then played it too, and you don't have the pressure to actually move Evan Fournier, which is a harder move, because everybody is saying move Evan Fournier, and I actually would prefer to move Evan Fournier, but when I really look at the scope of this team, I feel like it might be easier to move Derrick Rose and have things happen that way. I don't know. When I see you said when Grimes comes out, move Barrett to 2 when Cam at 3. That's a good, yeah. I agree with you guys, Black Set and Deshaun NYK. I'm with you guys. I don't know what you guys think about that in that perspective.
That's the hope. If we're not moving to Derrick Rose, talking about him, to me, the number one thing that he has to be ready for and expectations is to have a decreased role and probably eventually be traded. Because best case scenario is, like you said, IQ hits. He eats up a lot of Derrick Rose's minutes, shares some of that with Miles McBride, and becomes a de facto first start off the bench. I just want Derrick Rose. I think at this point in his career, he's more able to take on a lesser role in the offense. Trust him at Leon Rose and put him in position to succeed when he's eventually traded to a champion. But yeah, to me, I think Derrick Rose is the most tradable piece we have off the bench.
Yeah, he just has to prove that he's going to be healthy, and then I think everything else is going to fall in place. You know what I mean? But yo, shout out to the chat. If you want to call in and you want to talk Knicks basketball, you already know what to do. Call right now, 319-527-6241. That is 319-527-6241. Fritz, can you type it in the chat too? And I can pin it at the top for people who want to call in. And let's get to it. So we're going to talk about Derrick Rose next. But shout out to everybody in chat. Shout out to Black Set, Man Said Deshaun NYK. Richard Shomo. Everybody else is rocking with the KT show. All right, let's get it. Let's get to it. Derrick Rose, man. Derrick Rose. I fully expect Tom Thibodeau to dog face ugly cry if we ever move Derrick Rose. I expect it. I expect it. But here's the thing. Derrick Rose is going Derrick Rose, man. I know we talking about moving him, but it's not because he is a bad player. It's because he's a good player, actually. And it's because we're caught in the middle of a youth movement and a veteran movement, and we need to start to transition and pass the torch. But I fully expect Derrick Rose to come out here and ball. The dude has been off for the whole season. He was still balling last season before he got injured. When it comes to isolation plays or isolation scoring, he is our best isolation scorer on the team, even with Jalen Brunson, which is crazy. He's like, I think he's 81st percentile, while Jalen Brunson's in the 60s, 64. And this is going off memory. But I really expect Derrick Rose to continue that. And if you really think about it, a lot of the close games we lost, we probably could have won if Derrick Rose was in the game, because Derrick Rose kind of simmers things down and makes those clutch shots and put people in their spots. And without him, we were missing that. And that's a lot of reason why, we missed the play-in. So even though I hope that IQ and those guys pop, and that might be best for us long term, I still struggle to see if the front office does that, but I hope so. So yeah, so Lee, what do you think about Derrick Rose and his role this upcoming season?
Derrick Rose in that playoff series two seasons ago, he was the best player on the team. I think when everyone else kind of shriveled and refused to really step up and play at least on the same level they were during the season, Rose was the only guy who really was still barreling down the court, getting to the line, hitting free throws, getting N1s. He was like Penny Hardaway was in that 04 series way back in the day.
Yeah.
He was that bet off the bench to depend on. This season, I think that as he goes, as our play-in tournament chances go, Derrick Rose goes. If we are, hovering around playoff play-in tournament contention around the mid-season before the trade deadline, I think Leon stays with him and rides it out and allows him to be, a focal point in that rotation for the play-in tournament. If things are falling apart and it's obvious that we need a change, I think Derrick Rose will be moved and allow the youth to take over. So it's it's an interesting conundrum, but at the same time, I want to be competitive and I want to make the play-in tournament this year, but also I want the young guys to pop. And it feels difficult to be able to have both those things happen at the same time. So I think if we're in the hunt for the play-in tournament or, somewhere between the 7th or 8th seed, I think Derrick Rose is still on the team by the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even though it seems like the easier path for me to kind of move this thing forward, especially if Cam pops with IQ, I can definitely see a scenario where the Knicks keep him because of that experience. And that's Tom Thibodeau's security blanket.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Ryan?
Well, I want to start off by saying this. Like, Derrick Rose is one of my favorite players on the Knicks.
Yeah.
Because he's one of the few players on the team where he gives consistent performances. Like, you know what you're gonna get from Derrick Rose pretty much every night when he steps on the court. And a lot of times in clutch situations, Derrick Rose would step up for the Knicks and get big baskets and help out the offense. Because, like you said, he's a very good isolation player, 81 percentile, and in close situations, you want that type of player to be on the court because you know that he can take his man one-on-one and get a basket. But the thing is that there's gonna be a logjam at point guard.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how Thibs plays it out because you have Brunson, you have IQ, and you have Rose. I already know Thibs is gonna play Rose because Rose is his guy. But Thibs also is gonna play IQ because Thibs has shown that he likes IQ and he will give IQ minutes. And of course, Brunson is the new guy on the team. So he's definitely going to give Brunson minutes as well. So I would love to see how Thibs is going to really separate the minutes or balance out the minutes between those three players. But, Derrick Rose, he's one of those players where it's like, you want your young guys to grow, right? But Derrick Rose is such a good player and he adds a lot of value to the team where it's like, do you really want to trade him? Or do you want to keep him, especially if you make a playoff run? It's one of those situations where it's like, it's kind of like you're pulling teeth because you're like, damn, like I want to trade him because I want to give the young guys like IQ and like that more playing time so they can develop. But at the same time, it's like, damn, Derrick Rose is such a good player that if we make a playoff run, he can definitely help out the Knicks as well. So
that would hurt the most. It would definitely hurt the most if he was moved, for sure.
I see a great comment. There's a great comment here in the chat from Mansa Dushan NYK. Says Rose can't carry us. We shouldn't want him to. I'd rather move on from all vets older than Mitch. At this point, I agree with him. We shouldn't be depending on Derrick Rose to bail us out or Derrick Rose to get us to the play-in tournament. That we should be riding IQ in that role, in that position. Guys like him, guys like Grimes, guys like RJ. Our season shouldn't live and die by Derrick Rose at this point in his career. I think that's a great comment. I agree 100%.
Yeah, but you already know. I can already see the lineups with Derrick Rose, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett closing the games. I can see it already. I can see it already. Tell me you can't see it, because I definitely can.
I can see it. I just don't want to.
As long as Thibs is there, trust me, Thibs will know Rose in late game situations. He will.
Yo, Tibbs will keep tibbing. It don't matter. It's going to happen. All right. It's going to happen. And it'll be mixed emotion when it happens because I'm going to be cheering because I love Derrick Rose. Definitely love Derrick Rose. One of the best things that's happened to this team, to be honest with you. All right. Salute to the chat. As you know, you already see that number. If you want to call in, it's pinned to the top. 319-527-6241. I know we have two callers in the queue. Fritz. First caller. What's your name? Where you coming from? Where you calling from? And what do you want to talk about?
Hi, what's up? This is Ben from Queens. Shout out to me. Nation, definitely, all day. Listen, we need to realize something about Derrick Rose. I love him, but we gotta move on.
Yeah.
Especially if we're making a playoff push. Because this is the thing, right? If we have all these young players and we're looking to develop them, what better thing to do than to give them playoff experience?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to have somebody like Derrick Rose, who, you know what I'm saying, we love him. Probably not a Hall of Fame guy, but this guy has heart and he's trying to come back. But we've got younger guys who need that playoff experience. It doesn't make sense to have him taking minutes away from them, you know. And I see seriously IQ could be kind of like a scoring type point guard type guy. His game is, in a way, he'll bring similar things that Derrick Rose does, because Derrick Rose is not really that smart on the court who's really trying to dish out a bunch of dimes. He's pretty much more of a score first point guard. He always has been. That's IQ's acumen. He's really like a scoring type of player, and he'll give you a few dimes on top of that. It's better for them to go in that direction. And then to top it off, we're going to be dealing with another year. We're still trying to figure out what these guys might do. We're looking at them throughout the course of the season, and it's like, all right, they did this in the season, but when it's really pressure time in the playoffs, what do they do? That answer is not going to be provided if we're giving him more of these minutes. You know, so, I mean, I hate to say, but I think we got to move on from him, or at least limit his minutes. The young guys got to shine. And if they don't do that, that's bad coaching. And Tibbs, you on the clock, brother. Sorry.
Tick tock. Tibbs is on the clock. Salute to you, man. I didn't hear your name, but salute to you, man. Shout out to you. Thanks for calling in. He agrees with us, gentlemen. Derrick, this is a hard one.
Derrick Rose Hall of Fame, though. He's wrong about that one. Derrick Rose is Hall of Fame for sure.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, because when he said it, I was like, that's crazy. Like, this guy was the youngest MVP in the league. Like, if that knee injury didn't take him out early, he
would have been one of the best point guards of all time if it wasn't for his injuries.
Yeah. Sure. And the crazy part about Derrick Rose is, like, he just added stuff to his game in the last 3 or 4 years. It's like all of a sudden he's a 3-point shooter, and he was. Yes. So if he's healthy, teams are going to want him if he's healthy, for sure. For sure. Yeah. It's crazy when analysts are mentioning that, oh man, the Knicks missed the play-in, but if we had Derrick Rose, we'd have made it. Like, that's crazy. That statement is crazy. All right. Next caller up. Let us know what your name is, where you're from, and what do you want to talk about?
Peace, y'all. It's Evergreen G.
What's going on?
From the Bronx by way of Soundview. Currently living in South Jersey out here. I want to talk about this Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish conundrum that we have here, because the three of them all seem to be linked. So we got a double scenario that I like to use. We got the scenario as a matter of Evergreen G logic, and then I say three. The scenario as a matter of Evergreen G logic, the scenario as to we know what Tom Thibodeau is going to do, and then the scenario that is technically I would think to be best for the team. The first one is, man, unfortunately, we got to give Evan Fournier the Marcus Morris treatment, right? Let Marcus Morris rock out first, right? Let him do his thing and let him get that trade value up high in the sky. You know what I mean? Almost like a Marcus Morris.
I don't think he's going to have the Marcus Morris trade value, though. I think that might have happened already. I don't know.
Right. So you get that trade value up, and then you move on from Evan Fournier. Moving on from Evan Fournier will allow Cam Reddish, hopefully if he proves himself in training camp, to fit right in that slot, moving RJ at the 2. Raw Hebrew talks about this all the time, and I've been in it before even the Donovan Mitchell rumors was coming about. Now, if that doesn't happen, then we have the Derrick Rose conundrum, which is a lot of people don't like these two words in the NBA, but we got to load manage Derrick Rose. I don't want Derrick Rose to go because I'm trying to win, even in the playoffs. And just like the previous caller and a couple of y'all earlier said, Derrick Rose's value is really going to be in the playoffs. And the last thing I want him to do is to blow his damn knee out again, doing something silly in a meaningless game against the Orlando Magic or against the Detroit Pistons or something silly like that. So
Right.
I really don't even want the guy playing, and I'm willing to keep him at what he got, like 16 million a year. I'm willing to keep him at 16 million a year on the bench for someone that's going to be successful and bear us some fruit in the playoffs, right? So with that being said, that will automatically have the implication that the full-time bench point guard is going to be IQ.
Mm-hmm.
But we already know, just like you said, JL, Derrick Rose is going to be closing games with Jalen Brunson, with RJ, unfortunately with Juju, and I actually think that Hartenstein, because of his scoring ability, I think Hartenstein will probably be on the closing out games as well.
Interesting.
So I know this looks like or it sounds like a Quentin Grimes, is the odd man out. But if we look at Tom Thibodeau historically, he's never really jumped deep into a 10-man rotation.
Yeah.
So either way, two of the young guys were going to be out. So if we do the load management, then we can only, sacrifice one young guy being out, and that young guy would just be Grimes. And I get it. Everyone's fallen in love with Grimes over the last, it seems like 2 days. Everybody's just magically in love with Grimes all of a sudden. But I think his time will come because he's still got another, at this point, 3 years on contract. You know what I mean? So I think his time will come. But I just don't want him, to be stuck in a place of two guys that are right at the point where they need contracts and they need to play for it.
Right.
So my lineup, you know what I'm saying? My lineup, and I don't want to see Cam Reddish go. I'm definitely a part of the Cam hire. My lineup in the beginning of the season is just as normally projected, which is Brunson, Fournier for trade purposes, RJ at the 3, Julius at the 4, Mitch at the 5. And then coming off the bench is Derrick Rose, Immanuel Quickley, load managing Derrick Rose, and you still have room for Grimes. You still have room for Obi. You still have room for Hartenstein. So I think there's still room to be there, but as far as keeping people and playing them heavy minutes, I don't see that happening either way with Tom Thibodeau as their coach. All right, peace and love, y'all. I'm out of here.
All right, peace and love. Shout out to you. Thanks for calling Evergreen. Yeah, he mentioned Derrick Rose twice, but I think I know he was going with it. But he seems like he's leaning towards Cam over Grimes. I don't see Grimes sitting. The defense is just too valuable.
Yeah.
I don't see it at all. But I kind of agree. I understand the logic, though. Like, you have guys here who we need to make a decision on when it comes to contract time. And we do not need another Frank Ntilikina situation here. And when I say Frank Ntilikina, I'm not talking about skill set. I'm talking about we have a young guy in this organization who we didn't trade and we didn't play. And then when his contract runs out, he just walks away for free. That is a catastrophe. That was mismanagement of assets. We do not need that to happen. So I agree. I like how he said he wanted to start Evan Fournier for trading purposes to up his value.
I think it's also about.
I don't think his value will be that high, man. When I'm looking at what Bogdanovich got traded for, like Bogdanovich getting traded for that much, I feel like that's kind of like Evan's like ceiling, or you know what I mean?
Leon needs to make a decision on, is this a team is trying to cultivate culture and keep vets around to like make a play-in tournament, or are they really going all in on development and allowing young guys to play major minutes, make mistakes, and possibly end up back in the lottery by doing so? I feel like Leon Rose is like walking that fine line between not wanting to fully commit to either, and a lot of that's because of who our coach is, Tom Thibodeau, and their relationship. Like, he doesn't want to upset Thibs and just do a taint season, which is really what we've needed. Maybe
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, gotta upset your bestie, man. I don't care how far back you went. Gotta upset him.
Yep.
Like, take away his security blanket. All right. Yo, shout out to people in the trash. It's your first time here. Listen, we here talking Knicks basketball all the time. You're gonna be here during the season, after every game, talking Knicks basketball, and we'll be here breaking down Knicks situations and so on and so forth until the preseason starts. And also, listen, man, we got somebody coming. We got a special guest coming soon. I won't let you know who it is yet, but stuff in the works. We trying out here. All right. Next caller up. I see we have one more caller. Let us know what your name is and where you from and what do you want to talk about.
Peace. NBIC from the Bronx, New York.
What's going on?
What's going on? So I got a few things. I listen to you guys a lot. I listen to Raw Hebrew as well.
Shout out to Raw.
But I listen to Raw. That's like, he's like a ritual. Like,
right.
Him before I listen to everybody else. But there's something that I want to address. Like, everybody keeps talking about Derrick Rose, and they're talking about his load management, and they're talking about a whole bunch of different things. The only way that Derrick Rose is an issue is if Tom Thibodeau is our coach.
Facts.
I don't think he's going to be a coach. Because if you look at the timeline with Tom Thibodeau, 3 years is his max, other than Chicago. Okay? He's at that timeline. I think Leon Rose knows Tom, and I know, they have a relationship, and I don't think he was here for long term. I just think he was here just to build a culture. And I think his long-term coach was Johnny Bryant. Because think about this. Thibs has not learned his lesson. Each time that he's gotten fired from his head coaching job, they were for the same reason.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it. So I think that Rose has given Thibs an opportunity because they're cool, but he hasn't learned his lesson. And you still don't know what you have. See, this is the thing. We don't know what we have with all of our players.
Yeah.
We have a point guard. We have, which see, this is why the Knicks are going to be so much better than people give us credit for. Mitch Robinson is going to have a stellar season, as long as Obi.
Yeah.
Because you look at Obi's game. Obi is like Amari Stoudemire. Amari Stoudemire was good when he had, most beneficial when he had a point guard.
Facts.
You have a point guard. Mitch Robinson needs a point guard. You have a point guard.
Facts.
So those two are going to be unlocked. Now you look at the elements of our team and how our teams are going to be, everything's going to be different. Even with Julius Randle. And I believe that he will be traded somewhere at some point during the season. Because people are going to see that his value is going to go up, and then we're going to see Obi, and we're going to see but we still don't know our players. And like, the craziest thing about what's going on with this Knicks, and what I hear all the time, and it's so annoying, and it's hard to be a Knicks fan. People are downplaying the prowess of R.J. Barrett. Everybody keeps saying we need a star. R.J. Barrett is in line with 5 players that did the same thing as him at 22 years old, and they all became superstars. But people, they want to ignore that.
Yeah.
So there's a good status. There's a good time for him to become a superstar. I'm not saying that he's going to be a superstar anytime soon, But I think about this, and then, the whole, and I hear about the whole Donovan Mitchell thing. Oh, we need a star. We need to trade to get a star. I think in 3 years, I think RJ is going to be better than him.
I had to hit the gunshots on that one. Interesting talking points. You know what? Yo, thanks for calling. We're gonna talk all about what you just said. Appreciate you calling, man. I appreciate you.
All right,
Peace. End the day with say with your chest. He said RJ is gonna be better than Donovan Mitchell.
I don't know about all that.
I'm gonna rewind everything he just said because he's dropping a lot of gems and a lot of. First thing I'm gonna say is this. Offensively, I think he is correct. Obi Toppin and Mitchell Robinson, those two guys, I feel like are going to eat a lot more. I was looking at some stats. You know, when IQ and Obi are in a game together, Obi eats when they're in the game together. He doesn't eat as much when he was playing with the starters. You know, because IQ was feeding the ball. But now, when you're looking at these offseason tapes and you watching Jalen Brunson and Obi run together, you see that Jalen Brunson is looking for Obi cutting. So I feel like Obi, no matter who, I feel like this season, no matter who Obi plays with, he's going to eat offensively. So that's one. And the same thing can be said for Mitch. I also seen some stat that said Mitch scored more when he was playing with IQ. And I really think if Mitch had the opportunities to play with a guard who was passing the ball more in that first unit, he would have ate more as well. So I do believe those two guys are going to look better now that Jalen Brunson's here. And Derrick Rose is healthy as well. Because we're going to have all guards who can kind of play make. The other part of this, though, is still, to me, and I talked about this earlier, is the shooting. Between Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle. If their shooting if they start to hit threes at a higher clip, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for the league. It's a wrap for the league. But I think a lot of our success hangs on whether RJ and Jalen, at least two of these guys, can start to hit threes at a more consistent basis. That's what I feel.
I think the piece that I like the most is my main man, Johnny Bryant, on the bench, waiting in the wings to eventually take over. Man, I'm not a Thibs fan at all. I'm glad that at least I can say that right now the Celtics are a more hot mess organization. My man, Udoka is being done dirty by Boston. I would love for the Knicks to, bring him on the team, put him on the bench, assistant coach, and eventually take over for Thibs, man. I just think that we need a young guy who gets it. The culture of the NBA has changed. The type of coach that you need on the sidelines has changed. That old school Larry Brown mentality don't work no more. You got to have someone who can empathize and understand what these players are going through. Guys that understand about, online identity, how to manage your money. Those things are important. And I think having someone like Johnny Bryant or a guy like Udoka, obviously, who's a finals-bound coach, would be, to me, a better opportunity just to manage the roster, manage the minutes, and manage his personalities on his team than our guy Thibs was. Because if you always say, man, Thibs going to Thibs. And
Thibs
that's not always
is going to Thibs. That's one thing I'm not really sure about. Like, those guys are boys, man. You're not just going to fire your boy. This is not like past seasons where they just throwing away coaches all willy-nilly, or seasons before this, So for Thibs to go, Thibs has to fail. When I say fail, I mean like start off crazy, like 3-30 or something crazy like that. I don't think that we're just going to get rid of Thibs. I just don't see it. I just don't.
That's a bad move by Leon to even put us in that position, to hire a guy that's his best friend that you can't actually discipline or can't actually oversee because of those prior relationships. That's a tough situation to begin with.
Yeah. This whole organization is built on relationships, by the way. Just to let you know. Even the news where the Knicks hired I forgot the guy's name from the Timberwolves to do the negotiations for Donovan Mitchell. Like, the only reason why he was hired is because that guy was friends with the Utah front office, and they felt like he could get the deal done. That's the only reason, really. It's like this whole team is built on relationships. Scott Perry handled negotiations with OKC because he was cool with the front office of OKC, so he was in charge. So this whole thing is built on straight up relationships, which is why I unless Tibbs does something crazy, I don't see it happening. I just don't. Now, RJ Barrett becoming an all-star, better than Donovan Mitchell. Woo! Call me Mr. Chimney because I want smoke. He came with the smoke with that take, man. All I have to say is RJ Barrett is a very hard worker, and I don't want to put a ceiling on that guy. So I'm not going to say he's definitely going to be better than Donovan Mitchell, because Donovan Mitchell right now is a top 15 player. But he has a chance. He definitely has a chance. And I love his work ethic. I love his demeanor. It would mean a lot for New York and the city if RJ Barrett did become a top 15 player in the NBA. I know he's been working on his step back and his finishing. And I feel like if he starts to work on his shooting off the dribble and his finishing, he'll be fine. And it's interesting enough, I feel like the playmaking as well. I feel like if he gets his playmaking up and he looks for his teammates more, I feel like his finishing will go up as a byproduct of that. So RJ has a chance, man. RJ definitely has a chance.
He's on his way to be a more complete all-around player, I think, than Donovan Mitchell. He has that two-way ability and that hard work, that work ethic, and the ability not to shine away from the spotlight too. I think Donovan Mitchell's play in this last year's playoffs with the Mavericks was really disappointing to fans who were thinking about him wanting to come over to the team. But Donovan's he's a special athlete and a really special off the dribble creator too. That I don't know if RJ has the ability to get to, but I think RJ can definitely improve in every other facet of the game: defense, facilitation, rebounding, all those things too. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, and we lost Ryan G. He's back though. All right. You know what's funny? I do think there was a portion when Johnny Bryant applied for the Utah job. I low key think he didn't get it because they knew they were trading Donovan Mitchell a little bit later, and they felt like that was gonna be weird. So they might as well just they didn't want to hire Donovan Mitchell's guy, so it just went somewhere else. That's my weird theory though. But yeah, welcome back, Ryan G. All right.
My computer failing me as usual, but
yeah, man. Salute to the chat. If you're loving the show, please hit the like button and subscribe. We talk Knicks all the time, and we'll be back. We'll be back next week when we talk some more Knicks news and Knicks updates. Gonna be talking about Obi, Hartenstein, and more next week. All right, so definitely tune in next week as we continue our Knicks talk, and stay tuned for a special guest that's going to join KOT. So stay tuned for that. So you definitely trust me.
It looks like it says we got a caller.
Definitely want to stay for that. All right, you definitely want to see the special guest. Definitely letting you know. All right, cool. All right, next caller up. I think we got Alex.
Yo, what's good, bro?
What's going on?
I'm hyped. We're getting so close to this season kicking off, dog.
Man, I can't listen. I'm with you, sir. I'm with you.
Yeah, we're about to get this graphics department on another level this season, bro. So it's all good.
Let's go. Shout out to my guy Alex, who helps me out with the graphics during the season, man, and on IG. Shout out to you.
No, yeah, shout out to you guys. Shout out Ryan G, Lee, of course, Fritz on the phones, all the mods. Let's go. I can't. Come on, I got to lead with that, obviously, right?
Absolutely. Best mod in the game.
Yo, I'll keep it quick, though. I thought for a second, and just, to be fair, I missed probably, like, most of the first part of the show. So, if someone said this, or if you guys touched on it, stop me or whatever. But, for a second, I thought y'all were kind of getting away from this, but then you touched on the whole sort of relationships, etc. And I wanted to just put this out there because I feel like it is worth considering, or at least like worth touching on. That I remember before Brunson had signed. I think it's probably like a Post article or something, but I remember seeing at least like one or two articles where it was, you know, addressing the fact that Brunson had come up around those early Bulls teams, like young D Rose, all of that, like that they have like, you know, those ties that go back to when he was like in high school. And so obviously, you know, there is sort of the business side of just kind of like assets and making money work and so on. But like, I just feel like if we're to view Tibbs kind of like how, I mean, like when we had J Kidd, it was like having a coach on the floor. Like Derrick Rose is not, I mean, I agree with you guys, like Hall of Fame, obviously, et cetera. But like, you know, he's not that, but he is like kind of like almost like a mirror as far as like, it seems like he and Tibbs obviously understand themselves, like they're close,
Right.
you know, when it all gets worked down. So I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I feel like there's something to be said about that. Again, obviously there's certain like business dynamics and stuff that come into play. But, you know, I just think like, it's almost like kind of handing the baton, you know what I mean? It's like, we got Brunson in here. Again, further down the line, maybe he gets moved. Who knows? Obviously it'd be cool to like have him, you know, have success here and so on. But yeah, I mean, I wonder what you guys make as far as like, you know, obviously D Rose is injury prone, but like if he's there to be in Jalen Brunson's ear and Jalen Brunson can stay healthy, or I mean, you know, obviously we want everyone to stay healthy.
Right.
But yeah, I just, you know, I think it's an interesting dynamic. I guess is really all I'm trying to get at. But
yeah, it's all interesting. Everybody knows each other from back in the day. Jalen Rose knows Tibbs from back in the day, and it was in the Garden when he was a kid. Derrick Rose knows Tibbs. It's like it's all a big family affair over here, for sure.
Yo, do you see this in the chat though? Yo, I'm not trying to say Derrick Rose is worse than J Kidd like at the end of his career. What I'm saying is that Derrick Rose is not necessarily a coach on the floor at all times the way that J Kidd was. Like J Kidd was coaching the team just as much as our staff was. It felt like, bro, like it's not a skills comparison. It's just like a question of contribution and like,
right.
Honestly, more of just intellectual side of it. Like, you know, no shade to D Rose, but
yeah, I see what you're saying. It's funny because I do feel like Derrick Rose is still like a stabilizer on the floor for us. I do think he's kind of a coach on the floor, but not to the extent that Jason Kidd was. Jason Kidd was like another level.
Right. And I mean, like,
so I see what you're saying, though. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. But Jason Kidd, because Jason Kidd was another level of coach on the floor. But if you talk to, I mean, it seems like Derrick Rose has a real, especially with Quickley in particular, has a real hold on the young guys and stabilization, and he stabilizes his team in general. But he needs to hold on to Julius a little bit more though. But that's another conversation.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. That was, you know, it's a great show, so you know I'm here for it.
I appreciate it, man. Shout out to my guy. Shout out to my guy Alex who helps me out with the graphics. All right. So you know what? I feel like this is a good time to talk about something that came out recently. The ESPN top 100 list, and you already know I love ESPN list, and that's sarcasm. That's absolutely sarcasm. They're always terrible, and we always talk about it. So let's get to it. Lee, I know you have access to the list, and you can let us know. So first of all, congratulations to Mitch. He's on the list. So at least that's something, right? That's something.
Money Mitch.
Yeah, money making Mitch.
We got 4 Knicks on the list. Mitchell Robinson came in at 98.
Okay.
Julius Randle came in at 71. Jalen Brunson came in at 67. And RJ Barrett came in at 63. I don't know if ESPN interns are making this list, but there are some egregious and ridiculous listings here. I mean, Julius Randle on an off year is 20, 10, and 5. And they got Al Horford above him. Julius Randle beat out Jeremiah Grant for most improved player of the year. He'd had Grant like 4 spots above Randle. Like, make it made sense. Spencer Dinwiddie, bro, bum above Julius Randle. My guy is a bum. It's just like I don't understand the logic and thinking behind this. It's like that's what I'm saying. I think they have interns running it. I really do.
It's okay. Julius Randle over Jeremy Grant. I agree with that. If they were them, they're probably doing something like, oh, the playoffs. Al Horford did stuff in the playoffs, and he's the reason why. So I can see them like spinning it that way. Jeremy Grant, I can't understand that at all. That just seems kind of ridiculous. The man even play? Like,
Spencer Dinwiddie? Dog, these people even watch. He's so washed, bro. He is so. He averaged 15 points with the Mavs. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's like resurrecting his career. Like, he had one season where he averaged 20. The rest has been straight mediocre. And he's better than Julius Randle?
Right.
Maybe put my Julius Randle jersey on, bro.
Right. And on top of that, he gets paid in Bitcoin. So you know he wants the money, right? Because you already know what's happening with Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, I think the way ESPN looks at rankings is like this. So like the whole Al Horford, Julius Randle thing. Like, you know how you look at some players and you're like, okay, this player is clearly better than this player when it comes to skill wise and what they and you know what they provide on the court from a statistical perspective.
Right.
But then this other player, even though he's not better than this player skill wise or from a statistical perspective, that player probably provides more leadership and impacts the game better than that other player who is clearly a better player from a skill standpoint. Yeah. I think that's the way ESPN looks at it. I think that's the only reason why Al Horford is probably higher on the list than Julius Randle, because they see Al Horford and they're like,
yeah,
how Al Horford in the playoffs this past season with the Celtics, he made a huge impact while he was on the court.
They was looking at Julius Randle's plus minus numbers. That's what that was.
Huh?
I was looking at Julius Randle's plus minus numbers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think that's the way ESPN looking at it. Like if you looked at Al Horford and Julius Randle, you would say Julius Randle's the better player, but Al Horford impacts the game more. I think that's the way ESPN looks at rankings. So
then where's Derrick Rose?
It's debatable though. It's debatable.
I mean, Derrick Rose played 26 games, but then then Grant didn't really play well. So I don't even know. I don't know.
Al Horford's fine, but 10 points a game? Al Horford averages 10 points a game last season on like 34% shooting from three. Come on. I mean,
come on. You got a point.
Leadership is on the list, not above Julius Randle.
Like I said, they're probably looking at his playoff production and they're like, yeah, he impacted the game way more than Julius Randle, so we're going to put him in Julius Randle. I think that's the way they're thinking about it.
For sure, because Dinwiddie was definitely due to it all year. And then he had a spark in the playoffs. You know, so it has to be player for later. That's the only thing I can see.
But Jeremy Grant over Julius Randle, yeah, that's an atrocity. Like, nah, like, I don't know what they were smoking in the back room at ESPN. Or
the cracks. Yeah, something.
Yeah, exactly, the cracks.
Shout to Raw. Because Raw always love mentioning cracks somehow, though. But, yo, you know what I like to see? This is the only thing that gave me joy watching this. Seeing RJ and Julius Randle ranked above the snake Kristaps Porzingis. That's what I loved about it. That was the best part for me.
Yeah. What was Kristaps on the list? 86? God damn.
Yeah. Too bad. Nice. So sad. Try better next year.
I mean, even that's too high. I wouldn't even put his bum ass on the list. Empty stats, man. Talk about leadership. But I'm a hater, you know.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, he's like that Jay-Z lyric on a takeover, man. Had a spark when you started, but now just garbage. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's Kristaps for me. But anyway,
I hope Bradley Beal enjoyed those empty stats in Washington from him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't have that much to say about the ESPN top 100 except for that. I know we talked about. Congratulations to Mitch for making the list. Jalen Brunson. That's the only other thing. Jalen Brunson dipped from 44 last season to the 60s now. So I'm wondering what happened there when everybody says that this season was even better than last season. And if they're talking about playoffs are a big contention and it's something they look at, this man dismantled the Jazz single-handedly. He broke them up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to talk about the motivation for the Celtics. He was the motivation to break up the Jazz. And you're going to drop him 20 spots?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And yeah, and they put RJ Barrett over him too. And I'm like, I like RJ Barrett, but I don't know if I would put RJ Barrett over Brunson right now. But yeah, ESPN rankings are a bit confusing. So
that was a Knicks tax.
I don't know how to come up with it.
That was a Knicks tax.
If he was still in the Mavs, he'd be in the 30s.
Facts.
That's LOL Knicks all day long.
That was the Knicks tax. We talk. I know. Shout out to Alan Hahn. Alan Hahn talked about the Knicks tax when it comes to trades. There's a Knicks tax when it comes to rankings. All right. And it's ESPN. Yeah, ESPN know what it is. Mention the Knicks, rate it slow, and get the clicks. It is what it is. Maybe we should take this whole discussion, clip it, and tag ESPN and do the reverse. ESPN for clicks. All right. Fight back. All right. Right that way. Yo, salute to the chat. Everybody else is rock with the show. Shout out to Alexander, Bob Shop, B Willis. Everybody else is rocking the KT show. Only other thing I want to mention real quickly is Jeremy Lin documentary hitting HBO once again. The 75th documentary on Jeremy Lin playing 10 games with the Knicks and having a magical season. Are you guys ready to watch HBO and Jeremy Lin?
I mean, hey, whenever it comes to reliving magical Knicks moments, I will definitely rewatch. And so I'll definitely be tuning in for the HBO documentary just to see, I guess, how did Jeremy Lin think about his time in New York and stuff like that. And, it was a good time. It was a good time when he was there. I ain't gonna front on that. Like, I was mad hyped when Jeremy Lin was our point guard. I was mad hyped.
I was super hyped. I was tight. I'm still tight that we did all that and then we get to the playoffs and he didn't suit up versus Miami. I was tight. Suit up versus Miami. But I digress. It was a magical time, man. It's funny. I wanted to resign him. I did. But it didn't happen. Shout out to Houston with the poison pill contract.
It was a sweet memory. I think the impact culturally for Asian Americans to have someone that looked like them, to someone that went to Ivy League, was undrafted, that bounced around summer leagues, bounced around the G League, got cut from teams. It was a great hero story. And one of the few bright spots during that decade for the Knicks where there was a lot of darkness. But I think in terms of sustainability, I mean, his career showed what he was. It was a flash in the pan. That stretch he had at the end of that season wasn't the reality of what he was. I think it was the right situation at the right time with the right role players around him that boosted him and tapped into his best qualities, but not re-sign him, to me, was the right move. That contract, he wasn't worth that contract he got in Houston, like he just referenced. And I think, moving off from him was the right deal because at the heart of it, he's a bench role player at best.
I feel like many NBA players, injuries can devastate your career and pigeonholes you to like a certain status. I've seen it a few times. Me personally, when I looked at Iman Shumpert, I always felt like if it wasn't for injuries, he would have been a man. But like I said on this program with Mitch, you get better in the off season. And if you're rehabbing every summer, there is no way for you to really get better, which is why I feel like Jeremy Lin's career was the way it was. Like, I felt like he was injured every offseason. Same thing for Shump. Same thing for Mitch Robinson. When he got injured last offseason, everybody's like, how come he didn't expand his game yet? Homie was injured. He was doing weightlifting. And it's kind of why I expect him to get off to a faster start this year. So I do feel like if he didn't get injured like other players in the NBA, there might have been a shot he could have been more than what he was. But yeah, man, he ended up being a role player for his career. But I mean, that was a magical season, man. I think D'Antoni, right point guard coach, right situation, maybe could have been better. It was a magical season, but it is what it is. When we went over to Houston, I still remember he looked like he was getting bullied in Houston. I'm not gonna hold you. I was watching Houston, James Harden and Lynn, and I felt like Harden was like bullying him on the sidelines. And the same thing happened when he went to play with LA. So I don't know what was going on, but I don't know. That's just my optics. That's all I can say. All right. Salute to the chat. Willie Gibson says Knicks are KOT in the play-in. I think he's meant to say KOT are Knicks in the play-in. All right, because I don't think I can make the play-in.
Yeah. I think he probably meant KOT or Knicks in the play-in. That's what he probably.
Because I'm not sure if Ryan G still got a jumper anymore. So
my jumper's broken right now, man. I need to get back in the gym. I need lethal shooter.
You need lethal shooter for real. Exactly.
I need to get my jumper back.
We need to be in the gym with Mitch practicing them 3-pointers. All right.
Word.
But yeah, I mean, listen, we are playing. To me, we're borderline playing. We're playing team right now. That's the way I see it. The only way for us to not be in a playing team is we have to take a leap somewhere. We have to grow from within. And like I said before, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, one of those guys got to start to hit threes. When those guys start to hit threes, things start to look a lot different from us. It opens up everything else. Opens up Jalen Brunson, get into the hole, and opens up driving lanes. It opens up pick and roll with Mitch. Everything opens up if some of those guys start to hit threes. If we start to hit threes, if Starline hits threes, then we are definitely in the play-in. And then I feel like we start to threaten to be like 6th, 5th seed if we hit threes. If you don't hit threes, it's looking bleak. Real Memphis bleak. All right. Cool. All right. That is our show. If you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Shout out to the guy who said I subscribe. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Keep an eye on this channel. We have a guest coming. Nice guest. Nice guest. So please keep your eye on this channel and subscribe so you be here when we talk to the guest. All right. But that is our show. Ryan, oops, everything switched around because y'all all because you left and came back. All right. Ryan, there you go. Ryan.
Okay. All right.
Let her know where they can find you, sir.
I can find me at IG at Sir G is chilling.
Sir G is chilling.
That's SIR. G is CHILLIN. You can also find me on Twitter at RyanGKOT. Sir G's Corner on IG as well. Content's gonna come. I'm still being settled in, moving into a new city and all that. So
that's right.
That's on the back burner at the moment. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Shout out to my guy Jason M. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. All right. Also, you already know what it is, Lee. Let him know. Lee, are you on Twitter?
I'm not on Twitter, no.
Gotta get you on Twitter, man. That's what Nick's Twitter is on Twitter. It's popping over there, son. Get on. I feel like you would eat on Nick's Twitter, dog. Writers. I wish I was a writer because writers eat on Nick's Twitter. I hate writing. Y'all see me type. Y'all see my typos and everything. I suck at it. But writers be, you would do great on Nick's Twitter. But go ahead. Where can they find you, sir?
Just had some heat drop on Posting and Toasting about why the Knicks need to make sure they trade Randall before we trade deadline this season. And also a little piece on Jeremy Lin and Linsanity, that documentary coming out. Got some more heat coming out next week for Deadspin as well. So season's about to pop off. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, Jason is like, "Yo, Lee needs to get on Knicks Twitter." Listen, it's different. It's very different. All right, all right. You already know, guy. What you say?
Y'all convincing me. I might get on.
It's imperative. And then I could tag you and stuff on the stuff. Trust me.
Oh boy.
All right. And you argue. It's fun. It's fun. All right.
Yeah, it's
cool.
showing it sometimes though.
Sometimes it'll take up all your time if you're not careful. You be trying to write articles, you end up arguing with a 15-year-old bot somewhere. All right. So stay clear of those. All right, cool. So you already know what it is. Listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. All right. Also, get these fancy KOT snapbacks, blue and orange and black and white. Go to nickatimeshow.com. Get yours. Also, follow us on the KT Show on Twitter, Nick of Time Show on Instagram and Facebook. And yes, thank you for supporting the channel. We'll be back talking about more Knicks players next time. We'll talk about Obi, Hartenstein, and more. Randall too. I know y'all love y'all some Randall talk. Last week I wasn't even trying to talk about Randall, and Randall came up, man. Y'all was ready to go. So be ready next week, all right?
Can't wait for that talk.
Oh yeah. All right. That is our show. All right. And as always,
shout out the World Wide West. Everywhere we go, we leave a worldwide mess.
It's a mess out here in these YouTube Knicks streets. All right. That is our show. We are out of here.
Peace.
Peace.
York, New York, big city of dreams. New York, big city of dreams.
NYC.